On a day when the CSO's office has indicated that growth could slip to an abysmally low 5%, we're debating whether India's consumption story, the only resilient peer in a slowing economy, is indeed faltering. FMCG volumes have slipped, consumer confidence has hit new lows, and trends seem to suggest that spending on discretionaries is slowing down as well. Has the Indian consumer finally given in to soaring inflation? And what does this mean for the economy at a time when it is at the cusp of a revival? Joining me to discuss that is a power-packed panel. Mr. A. Mahendran, MD at Godrej Consumer, joins in here in our Mumbai studios. Sagarika Mukherjee, research analyst from SBICAP, also joins in from our Mumbai studios. Mr. Shankar, independent economist and political strategist, he joins in on a link from Mumbai. Later on the show, we'll be joined by Sunil Alagh, former MD and CEO of Britannia and chairman of SKA Advisors from Bangalore, and Gaurav Gupta, senior director, Deloitte India, joins in from our Delhi studios. But before we begin our discussion, let's hear out Manu Anand, CEO of PepsiCo-India, who I spoke to earlier in the day. I began by asking him whether the slowdown in volumes of FMCG sales in Q3 was really an indication and pointing towards a consumption slowdown overall.
I don't think there's been any major dip, Nikhil, in the last few quarters. Slight slowdown there is, and that is to be expected when you see the GDP rates drop the way they have. But I still see consumer confidence, and I still see consumption continuing.
So, but do you see a slight change in terms of the attitude towards how consumers are looking, especially at discretionaries, particularly towards items in the high-end products category, which can be postponed?
Well, Nikhil, really, firstly, we sell small indulgences at prices of 2 rupees, 5, 10, 20, 25. So it's not large outlays on our products, and these are small indulgences that the consumers look for from time to time. Has there been some sort of a slowdown over the period? I think overall trends are indicating that for all food and beverage products, but no major drop-off, I'd say.
And how are trends shaping up, sir, in terms of geographies? Is rural consumption still holding stronger? Has that trend changed?
Well, I think rural continues to outgrow urban. That's been the trend for the last, I'd say, 2 to 3 years, and that is still maintaining.
So the most rather important thing going forward is the outlook, because salaries are not expected to go up dramatically this year. Inflation is expected to stay elevated, and interest rates are unlikely to go down anytime soon. Will things get worse before they get better then?
Well, I think yes. I think the answer to the first part is, second part is yes. They probably would get a little tougher, but overall, I think we are still very, very buoyant about India and the India growth story.
And what about margins, sir? We've seen margins being maintained due to the steep price hikes that companies have taken. Are more price hikes likely to follow, and won't that in some sense sort of dent the demand further?
Well, I think firstly we tend to we resort to pricing only as the last option. Ideally, we look for improvements in volume, improvements in mix and productivity through the system to try to combat the inflation and some of the cost increases. But do take gradual price increases as and when required, and we will continue to stay within that framework.
So you did allude to the fact that things would slow down a little bit going ahead. So what's the strategy that companies are going to be adopting in such an environment? Would you be looking at, for instance, cutting grammage, focusing on smaller packaging? What are you going to be doing?
Well, I think firstly our strategies are going to continue to be very growth oriented. As I mentioned, we believe in the Indian economy, we believe in the Indian consumer, and will continue to invest behind that. We've already made some big ticket investments like sponsoring the Pepsi IPL, which I think will do wonders for our category and our products. And we'll continue to make the selective bets going forward. Now, as regards to the product offering, well, the beauty of our existing portfolio is that we already have a range. So I have snacks from 2 rupees all the way up to 60 rupees in terms of price points, and the price pack combinations are for the consumers to choose. And a fairly similar story on the beverage business. So we will continue to offer those choices there and let really the consumers decide which pack sizes they would prefer.
So has the competitive intensity also increased for FMCG players, and how's that entire sort of scenario panning out? More and more people coming into the market at a time when there's a squeeze.
Well, our categories have always been very, very competitive, and that I think continues. So we are spending to make sure that our brands remain top of mind for the consumer, and the consumers continue to love our brands, and making the right investments in the marketplace.
Okay, last question, sir. But given what we've been speaking about, what's the expectation from the budget for the sector as a whole and for the economy?
Well, I just hope for a stable fiscal policy and early implementation of GST to give us clarity about what the future would look like.
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app. Fully optimized for retina display. Full screen view. Faster response time. And Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.